Oh, yeah.
And now, our feature presentation.
That it was helping me to familiarize me with the language, okay, as we're getting it in the English, even though I don't speak the Arabic. I don't know the Arabic. And I never knew until 1980 that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim contained 19 letters. And I had to learn that through being introduced to an Arab scholar who had computerized the meaning of the Bismillah ar-Rahman into the 19 letters. And he asked me a question. He said, what do you think is the meaning of the 19? And I remember my answer at that time. I said, I don't know if I might know the answer. I said, but 19 is an odd number. And I said, it sounds like it wants to complete itself because the next number after that is a 20. So I said, maybe it has something to do with the 20th century and something about the understanding of the time in which we're living. That's as far as I could go at that time. But within that very same year, in Ramadan, this month that we're observing, is when I began to read the Quran. And as I began to read the Quran in that manner, just things just started popping up, and I would just get excited, and so I kept, notebooks and notebooks of notes and notes and notes and notes, and every time that I would get ready to say something, it looked like I couldn't say it. Like I was pregnant, and nobody can see it till I start to show it. So I'm saying that because it's really true. All right, so going back to why I feel, at this time that I can share some of these things with you, is because when I saw the writ of the messenger coming in on this 17, leading up to the 19 and 14, I said, that's it. I said, if you don't see the messenger, if you don't see his writ, then you cannot understand the rest of the message. Is that right? Okay. So let's go back then to this 17. When was the messenger born? What did you say? Again? 97. 97th surah of the Holy Quran, the Night of Majesty. If you take 17 and take it and compute it as years and add it to the birth date of the messenger, you come to what? Okay. The end of the devil's civilization, and in the 1914 are the two sets of initials that have confused the scholars and the scientists for the last 1,400 years. And not only that, when you break the 19 and the 14 down as individual letters and put them to the names Master W. Farad Muhammad, spelled that way as it is in the program, the Muslim program, on the back of the final call, and Muhammad speaks, you'll find that it's equal to 19 letters. And if you take his name, Wallace Farad Muhammad, and add that up, you come again to 19 letters. And if you take the name Elijah Muhammad, his messenger, and add up all the letters, you'll get 14. So in these two giants, into these two gods, if I may say, we have the summary and ending up of the devil's civilization, is that right? Coming to an end, coded up in the message of the Holy Quran. Then I looked at the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim again, and I noted that, okay, individually they add up to 19. But I kept searching and searching, and I found another connecting point which proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that not only is he written in the book, and Master Farad Muhammad written and coded in the book in a mathematical language that the scholars and scientists would not be able to tap because it would come through you and I. It would come through his people. Okay? And that we would astound the world because we're not what? We're not even Arabic-speaking people. We're not Arab scholars. But he said the root of Islam is what? Mathematics. And mathematics is Islam and can be proven in no limit of time. Okay. So a beginning of the linking up with the sciences or the scholarly class of people until we come to another juncture where we reach the angels. Is that right? And you can't reach the angels and they can't communicate with you if you don't understand the language out of which they are communicating, which is the root of our assignment. Lessons, Bible, and Holy Quran. These three are the dynamic keys to our understanding the mystery of God, to our understanding the times in which we live. Let's go a step further. Take that 17 now, that brought us to 1914, and add it to 1914, and where will it take you?
1931.
Okay, what happened in 1931? Everybody knows. The meeting of Master Farad Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is that right? In 1931. He made his appearance in when? 1930, with the discovery of what? The faraway planet Pluto. So the thing is so linked up. It's like signs that we have to study in the earth below that's connecting us to universal signs in the heavens above. Everything is linked up. And it's so interesting to note that in the study of astronomy, that the Pluto, the sign of Pluto, being the faraway planet, is also named in the Greek mythology as God of the Dead. That's where the name originates, God of the Dead. And it is, in astronomy, inclined to the plane of the ecliptic belt, that is the sun belt, in which all of the 9 planets are rotating around the sun, okay? That it is inclined to the plane of her orbit 17 degrees, which is completely a little bit greater than the rest of the planets that are rotating around the sun. So all of these signs are right there for us to study. So going back then, we've got 2 17s coming together so far. 17 and 17 is what? How many problems do we have to study in the problem book? And Brother Bernard Kashmir has stated that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that there is a problem for every year. That each one of those problems is a study of a year. So we didn't know, where to start the calculation, where to start the timing. Now, 17 and 17 is 34. That's correct. Now, if you add 3 and 4 together, what does it equal? And if you multiply 3 and 4 together, what does it equal? And 12 and 7 is what? Another rip into the 19, right there in the problem book. Now, if you take the 19 letters of the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it appears in the Holy Quran how many times? 114. However, one of the surahs, which is entitled Surah 9, or the immunity, has what they call a missing Bismillah. I think you've read that right. A missing Bismillah. But it pops up 19 surahs later, where? Surah 27, do you know what verse? Verse 30. 19 what? 30. God comes under a cover of what? Darkness. To do away with who? The hypocrites. To destroy one world order and bring in a new. Can we prove it another way? Yes. Before 9 we have how many surahs? 8. Okay. 8 plus 19 is what? 27. So there's the missing Bismillah, verse 30. And not only that, the root of our tribe, Shabbat, is right there. Because and under the sign of King Solomon, writing a letter to whom? Sheba. Right? And her parents and heritages was from the tribe of Abasha, Ethiopia, the black man. And the name sounds very close, is that right? To Shabazz. All you have to do is etymologically reconstruct the letters, turn them around, and you've got the code. That's what I'm getting at. The code is tied up in language. And the emphasis that Master Farad Muhammad placed in his instructions to the messenger to study language, syllables, is that right? Punctuation marks, is that right? Numbers, and then it says to study letters, to study numbers, to study words. because in that is the code, okay, that will lead us out of the ensnarement of our enemies, and he didn't want to reveal it to the enemies, so he put it very carefully in a mathematical code, like the Morse code and the codes that the devils try to use in order to master their enemies. Is that right? So we have a code too, coming to us, and that's why the messenger said to study the Quran and Muhammad's history. He said they will get an understanding of what is about to take place, because he said the Arab calendar count is the most accurate. Is that right? That deals with an exact calculation of the judgment and the things that will take place right up to the end. Now, if we take these 19 letters, and as I said, not knowing Arabic, I had to count then, after I got that much of a key, how many letters were in each one of those separate words. We have Bismillah by itself contains 7 letters. Rahman by itself contains 6 letters. Rahim by itself contains 6 letters. Can you see that very well without me having to write it down? So look at those letters just for a moment. Draw a circle in your mind around 76. Does anything come to you of the messenger's teachings on that number? 76 trillion years. Now make a circle around the last 2 numbers, 66. What comes to you? 66, so we've got the sun, is that right? The moon, all right, and it's in our national, is that right? Okay, and we've got the sun and the moon interlocked. So this 9th verse says that when the sun and the moon comes together, is that right? And there is confusion in the minds of the people and they don't know which way to flee. It says only in Allah, and the messenger said those words to me when we were in the hospital in 1975. I said, well, what should I do when I sensed that there was danger and that there was harm around me? He said, take refuge in Allah. Those were his words. He said, take refuge in Allah. And he says, reading, if you want to talk to Allah, that's taking refuge. He said, read the Qur'an. And that he will open up the keys and give you the answer. As you ask, he will give it to you. Okay? So 76, root of the sun, 76 trillion years, and also the root of the chronology or the writing of what? Our nation's history. Because the finer details, the messenger said, takes the sun back to 78, right? He said, but he would explain later what that 2 trillion year difference was. Then you circle the moon, and you got the moon. Now, what about the earth? Can we get the earth in there? Look at 66 again. Add the 6 and the 6 together, and what do you get? Multiply the 6 and the 6, and what do you get? What happened? What are those measurements a sign of? When the moon was detonated from this part, called the earth, the moon went what? 12,000 miles up, and the moon fell what? 36,000 miles out of her original pocket, and then she was picked up in her present orbit. So if you add 12 to 36, you get what? 48. And if you add 48 to that 66, you get 114. So everything is like summed up in that Bismillah ar-Rahman, and you can keep on and keep on and keep on and keep on and keep going. Just you can't even get past the opening words of the Holy Quran. So you can imagine if we were to really understand the rest, it would probably put us in a completely new orbit, right? All right. So the root, then, of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is in the Quran, and the root of his teachings. How many have come up and said, you can't find that in a book? That's some mythology. 76 trillion years ago for the sun, right? 66 trillion years ago. How did our scientists in the past master everything? When you go back and to study Egyptian history, when you study the early beginnings of the Indians in Mexico and in India and in all parts of the world, we find that they were masters in what? Mathematics and astronomy. Is that right? Mathematics and astronomy. And that they built and constructed their monuments and their temples to last as a sign, aligned up with celestial bodies above. They knew how to calculate and how to build, constructed by those principles of which the messenger said we would learn again after the removal of the devil and his power, and that we would be studying for 20 more years.